For this presentation, I decided to make a game. There will be kind of a presentation game, so nothing fancy. And okay, I've divided the game in topics that I can trigger. So the first one is going to be game design, and what can I teach your students about game design? So the first thing I want to teach your students is to look at games in a way that how a designer would look at them. So the first one is going to be, when you play a game, you need to understand what makes it fun, and not play it in a passive way. If you want to be a game designer, you need to start to understand what games are, what makes a certain game fun, what makes it engaging, what makes you come back to it. And that's super important. And this is something I want to help your students deal with. And then is they need to understand what is a game. It's a very weird definition, because every game design book you look at, you read, they're gonna have their version. And the point is a game is an activity that you do under some kind of rules, where you have a victory and a losing condition, and usually you deal with a loop, this kind of loop that we have in this board. You have to do an objective, and to do this kind of objective you have a challenge. It might be a puzzle, an enemy, or something in the way, and then you get a reward, like in Zelda, you get a treasure or loot or something, and then you start all over. And most of the games are just loops that keep on going. And then we talk about what's the role of the game designer, and we can observe this famous game designer like Hideo Kojima and Tim Schafer understand that they are owner of studios, big studios, and they kind of are the boss. But still, a game designer is not gonna be the guy that makes the game, and the game needs to be like this, and they are what they say is it's law. Most of the time it's programmers, artists, and other smaller game designer have a voice, and it will help shape the game. So never be the kind of guy that it's my way or it's nothing. And then you need to think about your audience. The target audience is always important, especially if you're making a small game or you have a small budget, and you have to think about it. Who is this game for? It's for children? Is it for adults? Is it for a mature audience? And everything you create needs to be related to that. So, and then what's the difference between an indie and a AAA game? What is a indie and a AAA game? Indie games like Spelunky are games that are small scope and small budget, maybe made by 2 people, and they don't work with big publisher, they don't do advertising. It's kind of it's indie, it's independent. It's changed now. They're a publisher, they're Devolver Digital, or Team 17 here in Wakefield, that deal with small indie games. And then there's the AAA games like Horizon Zero Dawn. They're a high production value game, and where they're backed by big publishers and big advertising money. But the difference is usually the small indie game, they're more creative, and they try some new things because they can, because they are, even if they don't do well, they will not lose all the millions of dollars or pounds. There will be a small risk, while the bigger games Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed, they can never try something really creative, because it could be a risk, a risk of failure and a risk of losing money. And then we move to the next board. The next board is going to be about art, where I'm pretty confident that I can help your students learn a lot about, especially 3D art. And the first things a student needs to realize is you need to specialize to be, if you want to be an artist, unless you work in a small studio. But I would recommend always to choose some role, and that you can be a character artist, a 3D artist, environment artist, an animator, and you need to start to understand what you want to do, what you feel like you want to do, what's the and you even need to think what the industry need. That is like you have to understand that you need to be on like always up to date with the current techniques. And I always been like I'm just fresh out of university. I'm still in the loop, and I have the interest of always being up to date. So I want to teach your students to be up to date with the current like industry standards, with the softwares and everything. And what I could do for your student is like to teach them how to create like assets, like an asset from start to finish. What do you do? How do you gather a reference? How do you model? How do you texture? How do you unwrap? To how do you like present in a way like you're gonna be good for your portfolio and it's gonna allow you to find a job. Okay. And then there is the last board. The last board is gonna be about programming. Programming is not my main focus. I really enjoy it, and I'm studying it at the moment because like I really wanna learn programming because I wanna make prototypes of my own games. So the first thing you need to understand is like programming is essential if you wanna make games. Like if you wanna make games, you either have a programmer or you have to learn programming yourself, because the code drives everything that happens in a game. If you wanna jump, you need to code the jump. If you wanna move, you need to code it. If you wanna open a door, you need to code it. So like programming is like necessary, it's like essential. So then we have different options. Even if you don't want to code, there's like if you are more artsy and more visually like focused, or more visually driven, there is like visual scripting now. There is not as versatile as like a normal programming, but it can get the job done, especially for prototypes, especially if you're a level designer. If you're just a game designer, that you want to maybe make a prototype that you will give to a programmer and they will work on top of it. And because like when you do a pitch, having a game is always beneficial because you will show how the game work and how the gameplay mechanics work. And then we talk about game engines. I've been trying all these 3 game engines because are the one available for the public. So I would be able to teach your students how to deal with each one of these like engines. And then we will ask, what is an engine? It's like they need to understand that the engines they deal with everything is happening in the back, like it's like the engine of the game. So everything that it's like happening under the hood is happening thanks to the engine, and they're different and they do different stuff. And so you need to understand which one you want to use for what reason, and that studios might have their own engine, like Rockstar, they have their own engine, and you have to understand that you need to be versatile and quick at learning stuff. Okay, and that's it. I just thank you for giving me this opportunity. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any question, I will be more than happy to answer them now.